My name is Oscar, and this is day 3 of becoming a crack developer from a cooked programmer. Again, I'm using Kattis. I'm recording myself in order to learn the best. I'm talking like there's an audience just so I can learn and understand what I'm doing and very precisely clarify what I need to understand better and what I already have a good understanding of. And if there's anyone that's actually watching, feel free to comment if you have any suggestions of what I should do differently. But again, this is mainly for myself and for my own education. Today I'm going to do another problem on Kattis, obviously. I don't know if I'm ready to go over to the 1.5 difficulty. I still think I'm not good enough at the 1.4 difficulties. I'm very slow, and as we saw yesterday, even at a very simple problem, I wasted a lot of time on unnecessary things just because I'm not as organized when it comes to all these problems. I'm still very newbie and very much cooked. So we can do multiple problems today. We can, if we do like 1.3, 1.2, I guess that it will be a bit faster. So maybe I'll be able to do some more problems like I did on day 1. So let's actually just follow this down. I don't think there's any point on actually seeing what each is about at this level because everything is very simple. So let's just do this one. Above sea level. As a GPS hobbyist, I'm going to turn off Spotify real quick because this is just very annoying. As a GPS hobbyist, you're interested in looking at how a database of altitude recordings will change to account for sea level rise. For your projections, you will assume that between now and 2050, the sea level will rise by 30 centimeters. Okay, your input will be a single altitude entry from a database of geolocations given in meters. You need to output what that altitude will be in 2050 modified by your sea level rise projection. Okay. A single real number representing a single altitude entry. The number contains at most 4 digits after decimal points. And the output is a print the predicted altitude in 2050. Your output must be within 0.001 of the correct answer to be accepted. Okay, sounds simple enough. You can see here they just literally just add 0.3 because this is in meters, right? So 30 centimeters would be 0.3 meters. So they just add 0.3 here. Looks pretty simple. Let's try to do this first try. It might be not as simple as I'm expecting it to be. So let's create a file function. My finger is still a bit fucked, so it's a bit like weird to write sometimes. But it shouldn't be as big of a problem as 2 days ago, at least. So we got the main function here. We're gonna do a int meters, and we're gonna do a scanf of that meters, right? So that will be %i and then meters here, and that's got to be in using a, what was the name again? It was fuck, I don't remember the name. I should remember that name. Oops, what happened there? Let's quickly search up the name of this. Why can I not select just this one? Thank you. It's ampersand. Okay, it's just a weird name. It's not called that in Norwegian. So now we have the meters here, and then we just need to add 30 centimeters. But again, the meters must need to be a float, right? It can't be an int because it's in decimal points. So it got to be a float there. Now, I don't know what the type is here. It's not integer, right? Is it F? I don't know if it's F. I also don't know what this is called. Let's start up float scanf. So it is F. Okay. So it should be, we should be good here. And just do this. And then we need to just calculate. So we need to add the input with 30 centimeters, right? So meters plus can I do this? Can I just do this? I don't know if this is possible. Or just to be safe, I'm just gonna say like float rise equals 0.3. That, and I'll just do rise here. And also we gotta set this to something. 2025 equals to that, and that gotta be a float as well. Okay. If I just print that out, it should be good now. I don't see why not. I'm not gonna lie to you. It would be a float. Oh, is there a specifier for how many decimal points there is? But that... .001. So that means there needs to be 4 decimal points here. And okay. So let's just try to print it out first and see if it works. If it doesn't, then we'll look at those if there's any specifying I need to do here. But I think I can just do maybe this doesn't work as a name. After rise, I'll just call it that. I said after rise. Now, I'm not sure if this will work, but hopefully it will. You have an you have a float here plus a float here. And then we can like specify it like this as well. So I think this should be good. Unless there's something I don't understand. Please don't get a compile error, please. Thank you. Okay, at least it wasn't a compile error. This is actually the first problem I haven't gotten a compile error at the first time. Test cases are the same as the sample test cases shown in the problem statement, so make sure your program handles these correctly. Your output. Okay, so it didn't... Huh? Why is it 2 and not 8? Wait, did I read this wrong? Oh, it's -3. My bad, it's -3. I thought it was +3. Contains 4 digits after decimal point. Printer predicts as you 2025, your output must be within 0.001 of the correct answer to be accepted. So I think the point of this program is to like understand more how like predictable or how what's the English word again? Like how specific a float actually is, like how, I don't know why I can't remember the name. Let's search the name here. Like how exact is the word I'm trying to find. How exact and float is, like, because it's not completely exact like an integer is in that sense. So I actually know nothing is like obvious to me here, because this actually, maybe this will work actually, because the fault was like very, yeah, it does actually work. So I think it should be good. Yeah. Because I was thinking like the output had like 0.0003, but that's after the 4 initial integers, right? So it didn't actually matter. So nice little problem there. Pretty easy problem. I think that's probably the easiest problem I've had so far. So yeah, let's just move on. And I'll just do the next one, add 2 numbers. This is 1.2. So let's actually do just 1.4s to 1.6s from here. Let's just do 1.4 because I feel like 1.4 is pretty much the best for me right now. Fjormun, okay. Undoubtedly, you have noticed these so-called memes, which have been popping up on the internet these past few years. One of these memes is known as the SpongeBob meme, where a sarcastic text is written on an image of SpongeBob SquarePants. The interesting thing about these memes is that text is written in alternating uppercase and lowercase characters. Your task is to alter the SpongeBob memed string to form where the first character of each sentence is an uppercase character, but the other characters are lowercase. I've seen this so many times, and I understand what it meant, but I never actually knew this came from SpongeBob. That's actually that is pretty funny. I did not know they came from SpongeBob. I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? Because it's like, maybe it's from the cartoon. Like they use that way of spelling a cartoon, and then people use it as a meme afterwards. But maybe, yeah, it does make a sense. I think it makes sense at least. But the other characters are all characters operating is unmeming a string. Okay. An example of SpongeBob meme string is a text like this, whereas the unmemed version of the text is forwritten er skemmetillegg. Okay. The first line will contain the integer, okay, whatever, the number of sentences in the memed text. The following n lines will include one memed sentence each. N lines will include one memed sentence each. Each sentence is at most 300 characters. Okay. Note that a sentence always ends with a full stop, and the first character of each sentence can either be lowercase or uppercase. No. What does a full stop mean in this context? I guess I'll figure it out. Also note that all characters are in the English alphabet. So here's an example. Write a sentence which appear in the input in the same order, except each sentence should be written in unmemed form. Okay. Yeah, I don't really know what they meant with the full stop thingy, but this sounds like a very fun problem that I actually think is going to be pretty challenging. I think I'm probably going to sit here for about an hour solving this if my predictions are correct. So let's just start, and again we just include the standard library, and then we have the int main function, and return 0 like usual, right? I need to get better keyword. Like this one has like this is a 60% keyword. That's like very annoying to use the arrow keys with. So first of all, I think we just define a char array. So this will be char and then entry, I'll call it. And let's specify that it's 300 characters, because that's the maximum, right? My fucking god. And let's I remember because I did a string question yesterday, and whenever I set, because I actually thought before that if you did this, you would set each element in the array to 0, or if you did like this, right? But it only like inputs the first element, which does make sense, because if you add more, you need comma separate here, or like, I don't remember the syntax because I've never done it actually, but like something like this, I think, and then another object here. I think that's the syntax actually, but I could be wrong about that. So I think here it's just already kind of set to just 300 potential bytes, and none of them are actually like taken. It's actually not allocated yet. I think that's the correct way of explaining it. So we got the entry, which is a char string, a string array, and we just need to have a scanf, of course. That will be a s for string, and then entry. Actually, we need the the name. I keep forgetting the fucking name for the symbol, man. It's called I keep forgetting, man. It's so annoying. And of course I closed tab. Fuck me, bro. Can I just do this maybe? Yeah. Ampersand. Nice. So we got the scanf here, entry, and then we need to, I believe, iterate through this entry and check each and every letter. I don't know how to check yet, but first I'll just write a for loop with e equals 0 and I is less than the length of the array, which I think is strlen, and I think this will just I think it's actually parentheses here. Oops. I think this is the amount of strings allocated in this array, or characters allocated in the array. And then we have I plus plus, right? And it can't be comma here. That's important. So we'll do this, and we have to somehow check each and every element inside of this string array now. Like, I'm thinking of just using some sort of if statements here. So we first have to think what we have to check. So firstly, okay, so I think there's 3 things we need to check. Check if it's first letter, and that equals that means it needs to be uppercase, right? And then it needs to check if there's a space before. No, wait, does it? Is that the only check we need? Yeah, and also I need to make multiple of these, right? Because you can have multiple. The number of sentences in the meme. Oh, okay. So I need to first make a int of amount strings, or amount. I'll just do amount array, like that, and then scanf. I'll do I, and then array, right? So now the for loop will first of all go through, I think I need to make it like another for loop outside of this bracket, if I'm thinking correctly. Because this for loop will be for each line, and then it needs to, after one line is done, go down to another line. So we need 2 for loops here. So another for loop here, and then I less than the array, right? Oops, and I plus plus. And then there needs to be a bracket here. And then I'll just do this, like that. And also, what was I thinking? I just forgot. I was just thinking of something. Yeah, it needs to be less than equal, right? Because it has to run when it's on the last number as well. And this one I think is not equal because the last bit in the array will be a null pointer, right? So I don't think you actually print the null pointer. That wouldn't make any sense. So it just have to check if it's the first letter, and then that means it's uppercase, right? So how do we check if it's uppercase now? How do we check if it's uppercase? I mean, there gotta be some sort of like built-in function or something, like upper or something like that. But I don't know. I've never done something like this before. With a full stop and the first character of each sentence can either be lowercase or uppercase. How do you check if something is upper or lowercase? There must be some sort of functions. I think I need to search this up. How to check if a string is upper or lowercase. Let's go Stack Overflow. We get test if a letter is in a string is uppercase or lowercase using JavaScript. Notice clever. You want to test if a particular letter in a string is upper or lower, or do you want to test if the whole string contains any letter that is uppercase? If it is the latter, oops. Oh, I forgot to specify the language. Let's see. Input character C. Like to check if uppercase or lowercase. Wait, that's so smart. Wait, what? How does this work? If the string or the character is more than A and less than Z, it is uppercase. Can you do that more for a character? So here you store the value, and then There's no way that's real. I had no idea you could do that. That's insane. Wait, that's actually so cool, actually. I guess the reason why you can do that is because each letter has their own dedicated value. And I'm pretty sure from A to C, they only have the values from one point to another point, and then they're each stored next to each other in that kind of interval. And so you can define that it's from this interval to this interval, and that will be like the if statement. I think that's what's happening here. But it's really cool actually. So if the entry of index I is less or equal to A, and and entry I is wait, it's more here, I think. So it's like this, more equal to. And if it's less and equal to the letter uppercase Z, then entry of I equals to equals to I, and you need to change it. Oh, wait. I need to make a if statement first, which is checks if it's the first one. Okay. So this is what's gonna happen here. So first I will first I will check if it's the first letter. Uppercase. Check letter. If first letter, run run if statement for the if statement should be uppercase, right? And then we will run different statements for rest of elements, and those should be lowercase, right? And also I will just make a if statement if it's the uppercase letters, because if it's not an uppercase letter, it's either a symbol, which is the dots, or the like the what's it called, bro? The point, the I don't know what's this called in English either. Punctum and period. Yeah, the period, right? So it might be period as well. That's why I will use that. So first we will here. First we will check if it's the first letter. So if entry 0, it should be right, the first element. If entry 0, can I just do that? I mean, I'm thinking I can do this, right? If equals to entry wait, how do I do this? I think I just need to do this, right? So if enter 0 equals true, I think this is correct. So if it's the first element, then you run another if statements, which is, let's just make it a bit more. I always like to use these brackets on the right. I know a lot of people don't, but that's just how I work. So if it's more than A and less than Z uppercase, that means it's uppercase, then do nothing, right? So this should actually be it should actually do nothing. It should just be shouldn't actually do anything. Entry I equals entry I. No, 0 equals entry 0, right? I think actually the I would work as well, because this would never run for any other letters than the first element. So, and then else we would run let's just do that, and we would say entry 0, no, yeah, entry 0 or I, that would work as well, I'm pretty sure, equals how do you change it from lower to upper? How do you change a character? I don't know how to do that. How to change char in C from lower to upper? But it's a char pointer. I don't want for a pointer. To upper int to int? What? Single parameter ch. This represents the character to be converted to uppercase. This function returns the uppercase character corresponding to the ch. So you have a character, you set it to the character G, and print the G to uppers. Oh, so you can just literally say to upper to the variable. Okay. So I just need to include C type, right? So if I include C type, and I go here and I say to upper, and then entry 0, right? So this would be for the first element in a sentence, right, on one line. And then the next if statement would be for every other element, right? So if it's uppercase, Let's actually change this to A to Z in lowercase like this. And then if it's lowercase, then we just run this one, right? And then we can just delete this code here, I'm pretty sure. So if this, then this, right? And we don't need an else statement there. So let's actually run the if statement here now, and entry I equals to upper again, right? An entry of index I. And that should literally be it for the change, right? That to upper literally does everything for us. And also, I'll just make this a bit clearer by doing this as well. We'll remove this. And I'll just set this here because I like to do it that way. And like that. So now we have an if and an else if, and it looks pretty clean. And this is for one line, right? This is for one line. So this will first be for iterating from one line to another. So after these are done, I need a printf function of there's something I forgot to do. Because now when this program runs, you will define the amount of arrays, and then you will just assign one array, and that's it. What we needed to do is we need to first ask for all the lines, and then the code need to go through the lines when you press enter, right? After the last input thingy. Wow. So the simplest way of doing this is just make a lot of entries, but I don't know how to do that. Wow, this is actually a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. I have no idea how to do this. I'm stuck. How can I make one scanf only if it's still like inside of the amount that is declared by the user? Okay, I think I know how to do this. I think I have an idea. So if I create another for statement here, so let's remove this first just to make it a bit clear here. So for I int, I forgot the int here, by the way. That's crazy. For int I equals 0, I is less or equal to, so it will be from 1 actually, from 1, so less than equal to the array, right? And an I++. and then it will create a scanf and also create a new character or a string array. But I don't know how to create a string array whenever someone, like, I've always like created the, like, can you even do this? Like, allocate new memory while the code is running? Because I've never done that before. I've never even learned. I'm sure there's a way. I've heard, like, I watched this this YouTube video of a guy named Coding Jesus that does like interviews with people, and they keep saying there's a way to dynamically allocate memory with a keyword called malloc, and I have never heard of malloc before I heard it in that video. But I think that's like how you allocate new stuff. But obviously I'm not sure how it works, and I don't even know if it's correct what I'm saying. I don't really even know what I'm saying, to be honest. Like, I just I'm kind of confused here how to do this. So let's just first make the scanf statement, right? Because we can make, like, we can take this one and create it inside of here, but I don't think this would work. Like, I don't think this is compiled, right? Because you kind of have to compile while the code is running, and that doesn't work. Everything needs to be compiled, right? So this doesn't work. I'm like 99% sure you can't do that. I'm not sure about this one, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very not sure about this one. I have no idea. And this was of grade 1.4, right? So it shouldn't be that much more difficult. And I'm pretty sure they wouldn't give me a question at this skill level where you need to actually allocate memory after the code is running. I don't think that's, I think that's too hard for the skill level. But let's just kind of go through what we have so far. Maybe something will pop out. So first, we are defining the amount, an int, an initialized int for the amount of lines we want, right? That's what you see in the input here. So this is what we define here. Then we define an entry array, string array, which is only one, right? It doesn't have a connection with how many you actually want, right? Because like if this was 4, then we would want 4 strings, right? But we don't have 4 strings. So that's kind of the problem here. But yeah, here we give the user an inputs for the amount of arrays, or this int here. And here we give a string input to the user. And then here we have a for loop that will run until the amount is like it will go through for as many, like it will iterate as many times as we defined in the amped array integer, right? That's kind of what it means. Like we want to go through and make a like correct a sentence or a line every time for every single one of the lines in the input, right? That's what this for loop makes sure. And then this for loop then for that line that we are on in this for loop. So for the first time the for loop will run, we are on the first line, right? Then this for loop will run for this line. And I forgot I probably need to change this to J because you can't have two I's, right? So let's change all of it to J first. And like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. On the line we're on, it first checks if it's the first letter in the line. If it is the first letter in the line, it has to be uppercase. But it obviously doesn't do that if the letter isn't lowercase, right? If it is not the first letter, then it will check if it's uppercase and make it lowercase if it is uppercase, right? So it's kind of like the opposite. Because every single letter behind the first letter will be lower and the first letter will be taller. That's why we have a separate one for the first letter or first character, and a separate one for each other character in the line. And then my idea was like, then it would print, like in this for loop here, it would then print the line, right? And then it would go on to the next line. But if you go on to the next line, then it needs to be defined, and we only have defined one line. So that's the problem here. Like, how do I create the amount of lines needed and like defined in the input? Like, that's just so weird, right? And I don't really know how to search that up either. I'm really not sure about this one. How to create string from input in C. Okay, so I think I've been thinking a bit. I think the way we need to do this is we need to use one array. We can't create another array. I don't think that's possible, and I think that's meant. If it is possible, I don't even think that's meant for this one. So I think a part of our for loop will be to just add a new line onto the original array. So let's see the input here. The first line, the number of sentences. The following end lines will include one memed sentence each. Each sentence is at most 300 characters, and that's the problem right there. Because each sentence is 300 characters, you can have 100,000. No, you can't have. You can have 100,000, 10,000. You can have 10,000 sets as the inputs for, like, you can have 10,000 lines needed, and then each line needs to be dedicated minimum or a maximum of 300 characters. So you basically would need an array of 300 elements per character or per sentence. Like, how does that make sense? Like, how can I do that? That doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, man. I'm really stuck on this one. I don't even know how to, like, find answers without using a the chatbot. I guess I can go on CS50 manual pages and just look through some functions, see if there's anything pops out. This is the one we used, right? Is upper. No, we used to change, so we didn't use a check thingy. We used a manual check. This is the one we used. There's the malloc thingy I remembered. I keep remembering them dynamically. I don't really know how it works though. What's a substring? Of length 5 from index 7. Can I use this? So I'm trying to think here, because if I use something similar, I would need the input to be able to press enter without it, you know, closing the scanf, right? But I don't think that works, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. I might need to use ChatGPT for this one and try to figure out how to do this because I'm really stuck right now. I'm really stuck. I'm gonna not give ChatGPT the code though, but I'm gonna ask for specifically what I want. So, I want to be able to make a string every time someone presses enter on the terminal until how can I do that in C? Until user press enter, then stores it as a string. Example: char input buffer for each line. Okay. While I think I know what that means. While true, print enter a string or exit the quote. If f gets input size of input std equals null, then break. I don't know. I don't really understand that line. Let's look at f gets. Wait, this is not the correct one. Wait, is it? Reads in at most one less than size characters from stream and stores them into a buffer pointed to by us. I don't understand, bro. Oh, maybe it's... let's try to read from chat here. Stops reading when you press enter or fill the buffer. Remove trailing new line. Yeah, I don't understand this code at all. I don't understand this code at all. Explain line by line. I don't understand why this one is so much more difficult than the other ones. I wonder if there's just like a very simple way of solving it that I'm not thinking of. Clears printf. Fixed buffer for one line. I would set this to 300, right? Because 300 is the maximum amount of sorry, of elements in one line. These explanations are shit. attempts to read a whole line from std in into inputs. Always writes a null terminator, returns null on end of file or error. I need a better explanation. I need clarify the fgets works. I'm lost from there. Reads text from an input stream, like the keyboard via stdin, and stores it into a character array, a string. Here's the function prototype and behavior explained mechanically. I'm not familiar with pointers yet, so it's so hard for me to understand this. The destination array. So if you look here, this is the destination array. This is where the store was, which I guess makes sense. Size the maximum number of characters to read, including null terminator. That's the size of str function, right? Size of, yeah. The input source, and then you have the input source. Okay, I think I actually understand it. So let's go back here. So because the fgets puts the value into this many this is the size of the inputs, right? The maximum number of characters to read, including the, yeah, so the size of the inputs and the where the input comes from, but it doesn't come from anywhere yet, right? And also equals null is weird. How it works, assume user types something and presses enter. The terminal sends each character to the input buffer, example input. Hello world, enter. So is this function just automatically like sends a scanf basically? This becomes hello world. fgets reads characters from stdin or standard in 1 by 1. It stops when it hits a new line. Or when it has read size -1 characters. Yeah, because it's the last one is a null terminator. Or when EOF is reached. Control D, Control Z. That's a null terminator at the end automatically to mark the end of the C string. Resolve memory. It returns string, a pointer to the same array if successful, or null if it fails or reaches end of file before reading any character. So I think I'm actually gonna take a and stop it here. Just because there's a lot of things here I need to learn. I think I can learn this pretty quickly, but I have other stuff I need to do, and I want to only use about an hour every day on this. And I feel like this is also a very nice way to a place to stop. Just because, you know, the next step from here will probably be to you know, change the whole code here to something very different, it's gonna work very, very differently, right? So I think it's nice to stop here. I think I will draw the line and say that I will continue on the same problem tomorrow and hopefully finish it then. So yeah, I did learn a couple things though. I learned about this toUpper function, which is a really nice function in the C type library. I also learned how to manually check if a character is uppercase or lowercase. It's really, really cool. And overall, I felt like I got an okay introduction to the fgets, like a quick introduction there. So I think we should be good for tomorrow. I think we will definitely be able to solve this tomorrow. So yeah.